Hey you guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today, we're talking fall jig fishing. I love fishing jigs in the fall. Football jigs, out dragging on the bottom. Pitching jigs, up around cover. Micro jigs, when the fishing gets tough. I have so much confidence in a jig. This is not just another technique to me. I've been a jig fanatic for 25 plus years. I mean, I really do dream about fishing a jig in the fall at other times of year. When I'm out in the summer and there's boats everywhere, I'm like, man, when this grass dies back and the boats disappear, I'm gonna smash them on a jig. I dream about it. Now, today what I want to do is I want to try and convey my confidence to you. I want you to go out and fish a jig confidently, because there's two things about a jig that are very different from everything else this time of year. Number one is the size of fish that they can catch. They'll catch a lot of fish, but a jig will also catch the absolute giants. It stands out from all your other slow-moving presentations in the fall. It's just a giant fish catcher. Number two is that at this time of year, you can use it to be incredibly efficient. So normally you need really fast-moving baits to be efficient, right? A buzzbait on the surface, or a whopper plopper, or down deep a crankbait. Things that are covering tons and tons and tons of water to locate fish. But in the fall, because of the conditions, and I'll explain this in a little bit, bass get into very predictable locations, and the jig is an incredibly efficient way to go along and pull out the biggest fish. It's amazing. Now, to kick this video off, if you were only going to have one jig, and this will surprise no one who's ever seen me do a jig video, because this is the same thing I tell you at every other time of year. For the guy who doesn't want to take the deep dive with me today, you just want that one. Tell me what to throw, let me go to the lake. It's this right here. This is a Dirty Jigs pitching jig. It's an Arky style head, 1/2 ounce. This on the back is an X-Zone muscleback craw, the 4-inch. That combination right there, this is called the go-to. This color is called green pumpkin. I'll link all of this in the video description for you. When you open the description of the video, the first thing you'll see is the link to this jig if you could only have one. After that, I'll link everything I talk about. Jigs, trailers, we'll give you color recommendations, the rod and reel combos that we use to fish these things effectively. We'll lay it all out for you. But if you're going to go anywhere in the country and you just want to have a jig with you, you don't want a jig box, you don't need this floating around with you. You just want one in the mix, so if you feel like playing with the jig, you can. 1/2 ounce pitching jig in the go-to. It will do everything. It's not perfect for dragging out offshore. It's not perfect for flipping the heaviest of cover, but it will do all of it. You can take the one jig and do all the different things, and you'll be just fine. Now, for the rest of you, the people who want to take the deep dive and really understand this thing, let's do that right now. We're still starting with the pitching jig because, again, if I could only have one, it's a pitching jig. Flat out, that's the one. In my own boat, too. What I dream about, my key scenario in the fall, is when grass starts dying back. If you're on a lake that's got some grass in it in the summer and then that grass starts fading in the fall, that is the time where the pitching jig comes to play. So here's the deal in that scenario, because I've got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 styles of jig here that we're going to talk about today. It's a few different jigs, few different trailers, but 4 styles. The first style being that pitching style jig. The scenario for that jig is as that grass dies back, bass that have been out on these huge, expansive flats will pull up to any remaining cover or hard structure. Okay, they might be on a flat out next to a river edge, and when the grass in the summer, they're up in that grass, and you would have to throw a frog for hours to get some blow-ups. If you wanted to flip, it's going to take all day to flip all the grass. Remember, I talked about being efficient? Now, as that grass starts getting unhealthy, it's died back, those fish have bailed out of that stuff. They might go out to the outer edge where it rolls to a creek channel, or they might go out if there's stumps on that edge. They'll really go to that. If that doesn't exist, they turn around and go the other way. They go shallow. We just recently did a video where I went out and just slayed them on docks. It was that exact scenario. The grass in the lake had died back. Fish went shallow to find something to hold to. They went right up under shallow docks, right up under shallow trees, and we just pounded on them with that pitching jig, specifically the compact pitching jig. So the situation here is in a grass fishery, as the grass gets unhealthy in fall, and by now it should really be breaking up. Grass should not be a major part of your game unless you're in the South. If you're in the South, different animals. Sometimes that grass never gets unhealthy in the fall, even in the winter. It just keeps going. It's amazing. But for the core of the country, that has already happened, and your fish have moved to the hard structures nearby. So instead of fishing half a mile of grass, you look up to the shoreline and there's 5 laydowns down that same half-mile stretch. Here's the efficiency part. The biggest fish have gone to those 5 laydowns, and all you need to do is go straight to them, and you take your pitching jig and you start flipping those laydowns one by one. And not only will you catch fish, you'll catch the biggest fish in the area, because the best fish have taken the best cover. They've gone up to that tree. They'll take the sweet spot on the tree, and a jig is a big fish bait. So your odds are high of them saying yes and eating that thing when you make your presentation. Now, what's the difference between a pitching jig and a compact pitching jig? Okay. All this is how clear my water is, 1, and how large I expect the fish to be, number 2. So if the water is murkier, I throw a pitching jig. So the pitching jig has this stout hook in it. The compact pitching jig has a very similar hook, but it's nowhere near as long. Can you see the difference in, let me get the heads the same. See the difference? It's like a 1/4 inch shorter, and it's lighter wire. So again, if I think I'm gonna be around big ones or the water is murky, I throw the standard pitching jig, and I can throw that on 15 to 20 plus pound line, and I can smoke those fish and just grind them and boat flip them. I know if I hook a giant, I'm gonna get them. Now, if your water's clearer or your fish are expected to be smaller, which was the scenario in that jig video we just did. The lake I was on, I've never really caught monsters there. I just catch a lot of really good quality fish. Actually, we catch a lot of dinks. The other day, when we shot that video, I mean, we caught some good ones out of that lake, but that's not typical. So in that situation, the water was clear and I expected smaller fish. I go to the compact pitching jig, same profile, same trailer, but it's just the smaller size. So this is the 4-inch. That's that smaller it's either 3.25 or 3.5. I'll link it in the video description for you. But same trailer, just smaller size. Everything about the jig is downsized. Size of trailer, size of hook. I can throw that on 10, 12, 14, 15 pound line. I'm making the same presentation with the same style head. It'll come in and out of wood really well. It'll fish around docks really well. But I'm doing it on lighter line because it takes less pressure to set that lighter wire hook, that smaller hook. So I can do it with lighter line. I can get more bites in clear water. So clearer the water, whoa, things are blowing around here. I mean, it is howling today. Hopefully you guys don't have tons of wind noise. I've got brutal wind, baits flying on the deck. That's all right. Let's keep rolling here. So lighter line for lighter hook to get more bites, heavier line, heavier hook to get those giants and to be confident that you can put all the pressure on them that you want to put on them. But that's the scenario with the pitch and jig that I dream about. Fishing hard cover and hard structure in the fall near where bass had been spread out. And I can do it so efficiently. I can call my shots. I can pull up to docks and go, yep, they're going to be right there on that one. And actually, that brings me to a key point. Here's something else for you. Whether we're talking about a dock or a laid down tree, how you approach it is critical. If you don't have confidence in a jig yet, this is probably a major thing that you're doing wrong. If I'm in a boat or I'm fishing from shore, the strategy is the exact opposite, but you'll understand why in just a second. If I'm on a boat and I pull up to either a lay down or a dock, I'm always going to fish the outermost edge first. Then I will work my way towards shore, okay? The reason why is that oftentimes it's not just one fish that has gone into this laydown or one fish that's gone up under that dock. This time of year, there were a lot of fish out there in that grass, and now they've all corralled up in there. So there can be schools under these docks. If I throw all the way to the bank and I stick one and I drag them out, I drag them through all the other fish, and you can mess it all up. But if I start on the very outside and I stick one, I just pull them away from the dock, the fish that are back under there don't even know. I come in, I fish a little further in, get another one. Go down the side of the dock, start working towards shore, get another one. I can catch multiple fish out of the same dock or the same laydown. If I'm on the bank, it's the reverse. So instead of walking up to the shore and throwing way out to the end of the tree, I'm going to walk up to the shore very quietly, stay low, and I'm going to make a pitch right next to the tree and the bank. Then I'm going to cast further out. Then further out. It's the same thing, but in reverse. If you stick one, you don't want to pull them through all the other fish. You want to work your way out to catch as many fish off that one piece of cover as possible. Now, here's one more clue for you. I have found in my own fishing through the years that on laid down trees, the biggest bass are always in the same place. They're almost never out on the very end. They're almost never all the way up against the bank. They're almost always right where the main trunk of the laydown either has a fork or a major branch comes off, which essentially is also a fork. It's like that sweet spot provides double the cover, double the ambushing opportunities, and the biggest bass always takes the sweetest spot. So if you pull up to a tree and you're looking, where's she gonna be? That's always where I believe the big one is going to be. I've just, through the years, I've caught so many of them right where that tree will fork. They're right there. Now, with a dock, it's very similar, but it has to do with shade. The biggest bass always take the darkest part of the shade under a dock. So, if you pull up to a dock and it's only 4 feet wide, they could be anywhere. But if you pull up to a dock and it comes out into the lake and then it's got an L on it, and that L is wide, they're gonna be right under the darkest part of that, right in the center. The hardest cast to make, unfortunately, but that's where those biggest ones will be. And that will shift throughout the day. As the sun goes over, the shade under that dock is shifting, and they'll move to stay in the darkest shade under that dock, okay? Just a little tidbit that makes a huge difference. Again, I love this style of fishing, this style of year. You can see, like, I play these scenarios in my head a month ago, 2 months ago, brainstorming about this time of year. Where have I seen laydowns all through the year that make sense that I can go back to when the grass dies, right? I'm dreaming about this stuff. I love fishing a jig in the fall. So scenario one was that pitch and jig. As far as rods for that, a proper jig rod is critical. You need a rod that is very different from what most people throw, honestly. What you need is a rod that is very stout in the tip, but softer in the mid. A lot of people will throw extra fast jig rods. And don't get too caught up in that, because a lot of rods, honestly, from a lot of rod manufacturers are mislabeled. Like, they'll call them a fast or an extra fast, and then you flex the rod and you're like, that's not what that is. So don't worry too much about it. But if you grab a rod in a tackle shop, yes, it needs to be stout enough in the tip to slam that hook. But once you slam that hook, They've got this big jig in the roof of their mouth and they're head shaking, especially the big ones. If that rod is only flexing right up here, when they're head shaking, they can spit that jig. So you want a rod that loads deeper through the midsection of the rod. It's a little more parabolic, a little bit more moderate fast. That's what you want in a rod to keep those fish bowed up. Because when you load them and that rod loads deep and they come up head shaking, it's loading and unloading during the head shake, but it's never fully unloading. It's never going back to a straight rod. So it's always keeping pressure on them. The X-Pride 7.4 Heavy is my favorite all-around rod for throwing a pitching jig, for throwing lighter flipping jigs, hooks where I need to put the screws to them, bow them up, drag those fish. Those big full-size jigs, that's the one. This fall, I've been playing a ton with this rod as well from Dobbins in the Ecstasy series. So this is a high-end rod. This is the 755. It's a 7.5 5-power. They call that a mag heavy, but I mean, if you're comparing brand to brand in the industry, I would not call that a mag heavy at all. It's a very comfortable heavy, but that 7.55 has an amazing load up, and it'll throw a pitching jig. It'll throw a 1/2 ounce pitching jig, but it will also throw a compact pitching jig. It'll even throw some of your lighter jigs. I've been so impressed with that one. I'm always looking for really high-end jig rods. So I jig fish a lot more than most people. I really enjoy it. It's one of the techniques that I'm super passionate about. And through the years, I've struggled to find, I find really high-end rods for fishing a jerkbait or a crankbait or a Senko or you name it. I've found a high-end rod for almost everything. And through the years, the jig is the one that I struggle with. I have amazing mid-priced rods, but I've never found just that perfect, super high-end rod that's just lighter weight, more sensitive, all the things, right? I've been very impressed by this 755 Ecstasy this fall. I've caught a ton of fish on it. I've been able to pound those hook sets. Very, very happy with this rod. I've got an Abu Zenin on that, but the important thing here is 50-pound braid, and then I tie a leader from there. I love braid to a leader for a jig. Same thing here. Actually, this one's 65-pound braid, and then I'll drop down to the leader because sometimes I'm throwing a 1/2 ounce pitching jig. Sometimes I'm throwing bigger than that, right? But that going to braid to a leader allows me to make quick adjustments. I can drop down to 15-pound on the fish end. I can up to 25-pound on the fish end if I think there's going to be a giant or they're really in some gnarly cover. I can immediately size up, size down, make quick adjustments. But braid allows me to smash that hook set and really get a positive hook set, hit those fish hard, way harder than I could do with straight fluoro. The other thing, and this might surprise a lot of people, but for a jig, I almost exclusively use mono leader, particularly with all the big jigs. I do. It's exclusive. All mono leader. I don't think visibility is a big deal. I don't. These fish, especially when they're up around cover, they're already in a bunch of junk. They don't see it. They just see that jig come in there and they smoke that thing. Mono is a shock absorber. So when I hook a really big one, I get them out, I get them over by the boat, and they're just bulldogging. That mono is that last bit of stretch because something has to give. It's either going to be your rod, the line, the hook, or the fish's face. One of those things is going to give if you pull too hard. Mono is an amazing shock absorber, and I can credit dozens of giant bass that I felt like I should have lost when they bulldogged at the boat, and I didn't. And I really credit that to that heavier mono leader taking the hit, because you get them in the boat and that mono is sprung. It's time for a fresh leader, but it did its job. Okay, enough about that. We've got one style of jig down. We've got 3 more to go. Let's talk about this little guy because it's related. This is the finesse jig. The finesse jig is a finer skirt and they cut the top and you get sort of this funny bulbous head going on there and then standard skirt below that. Regular strands down below. A finesse jig for me is a dock jig. Now, I can do the same thing with a pitching jig. But the beauty of a finesse jig, it's a ball head. And I've just found that when I'm trying to skip up under docks, like low to the water docks, and I need to reach in there, for whatever reason, this finesse jig skips back under that stuff better than a pitching style head does. It doesn't catch the water. I'll go to skip a pitching jig, one cast will be perfect. The next one will just blow up, right? Big explosion, make a mess of it. But that guy, that finesse jig, it'll just skip back under those docks really consistently. It's sort of a medium wire. It's kind of like the compact pitching jig, honestly, hook size. But it's just that different head, different cut skirt. And it gets a lot of bites. I've done really well this fall with this as well. And I've got a different trailer on this one. This is from Demiki. You guys, if you saw that jig video a couple of weeks back, I caught them good on all this stuff that I'm talking about. That's the Demiki Air Craw on the back of that one. That's this one. Here's that X-Zone that I was talking about. Two sizes. Oh yeah, 4-inch and 3.25 inch. And then here's this Demiki Air Craw. This particular color is green pumpkin purple. The overall combination is very natural. It's downsized. I can easily throw it on 10 to 12 pound. I could power up to 15, just like that compact pitching jig, but I can reach farther under docks. And I find that when fish are finicky, like when they should be eating it, but they're just not, sometimes I'll go to that finesse jig, something about that finesse cut, I don't know, I can get those bites. Now this Demiki Air Craw, this is something I throw a lot in the dead of winter. This is like one of my secret weapons. It has very little action on the bottom, but these claws are hollow. I can squeeze them, they're totally hollow. They've got air in them. And as a result, it wants to stand the back of that jig. It wants to lift its claws up. And I just think that smaller profile with that finesse cut skirt, with those claws sort of reaching up off the bottom, does something when the fish are just being a little weird. When they're in the mood, you flip any jig in there, they're going to turn around, smoke that thing. But it's on the days when they're not in the mood that these little differences can actually be a huge difference in your results. All right, that category wasn't so bad, right? We got through that one quick. We've got two more. And again, both of these are smaller. I get really passionate about that pitching jig. Next one up is the football. A football style head for me is almost exclusively an open water jig. What I mean by that is highland reservoirs, places where we've got a lot of long tapering points or rocky points, but not a lot of grass. That's where a football jig is a major player for me. I love to take a football jig. Sometimes I'll just straight drag them. Drag it, let it sit, reel up the slack. Drag it, let it sit, reel up the slack. And I'll just work my way down a point. Other times I'll pop it and work it a little bit, but you're never gonna see me like full stroking a football jig. That's not how I fish it. Just either pull or like little hops. That's it. I have one trailer that I fish on the back of a football jig. Seriously, I'm like that picky about it. Yamamoto double tail grub. Comes in a 4-inch and a 5-inch. Almost exclusively the 5-inch. The only time I go to the 4 is like the dead of winter when the fish are super grumpy, and I just think a smaller profile might help me. But this is your standard, is the Dirty Jigs again, finesse football. If I'm throwing a football jig, I'm throwing a finesse football jig. I just have all the confidence in the world in that thing. 10 to 12 pound line, no problem, all day long. So great skirt colors. That one's called Super Matte Brown. I designed that skirt color when I was a little kid. Seriously. I mean, I don't know, almost 20 years ago, I designed that skirt color with Dirty Jigs. It's crazy how long it's been. But paired up with that 5-inch Yamamoto double tail is deadly. Now, notice that my jig here is cinnamon and purple, but my trailer is green pumpkin. And this brings up an interesting point. With any jig, you can be very simple with your color selection, right? I mean, all the jigs we've talked about so far, we've got Go-To, that one's actually Canterbury Craw, and we've got Super Matte Brown. 3 colors here in all those jigs. I could take any one of those colors and fish them in any scenario around the country, especially the Go-To. You can take that basically green pumpkin and brown jig. You can fish it in clear water by pairing it up to a green pumpkin trailer. But you could take that thing to Florida and you can pair it up to black blue and you could flip it there. You can take it out west and put a red trailer on them and catch fish in the middle of summer on Clear Lake. You can take a trailer that does not match a jig and create a pairing that will soften or make a color more harsh. So like here, where this cinnamon purple with green pumpkin is very natural. But if I went to a cinnamon purple trailer, then that cinnamon purple gets really, really bold. I could throw a black blue on there and it just darkens everything up. So don't be afraid. If you don't want to spend a ton of money on jigs, I don't blame you. Get 2, 3, 4 colors a jig total. And then get yourself some different trailers in some different colors. And you can mix and match to any scenario. Back to that football jig. Again, for me, it's an open water thing. I think Highland reservoirs, smallmouth, spotted bass, or Highland reservoir largemouth, drag in open water. What I love about a football jig is if you drag it on a mud bottom, it's pushing. It's like a bulldozer, that flat head shape. It's pushing and churning up mud. And you'll see, if you ever drag one in shallow water, you'll see it leaves this like blown up mud trail. And I've seen fish come into that mud trail and track it and get right into the mud and then tag that jig. They're following the mud. It's like a giant spotlight telling them there's food over there. Now around rocks, the beauty of a football jig is they don't hang up as bad. Now, there's a caveat to that. They actually hang up way worse than other heads, meaning you're pulling them through rocks, you're getting stuck all the time, but you don't break them off. So if this was a pointed head and you're trying to drag it through rocks, that pointed head will wedge into the rocks and it's stuck for good. You're breaking it off. But a football head will hit that wedge and it doesn't get all the way in, it just gets bound up. And if you shake that rod or twang the line, it'll pop free and it'll come over. So while it gets hung up a lot, it doesn't actually get stuck a lot. I don't break very many off. So they're very effective around chunk rock as well. Now, that brings us to our final category and that is the little guys. The truly finesse jigs, micro jigs, bait finesse jigs, spinning rod jigs. The world has been changing. We've all been downsizing the last few years, and I have developed so much confidence in these little micro jigs. Now, the first one I want to talk about is this little guy right here. This is the tiny Yamamoto Hula Grub, which is not actually a jig at all. It's a little soft plastic. Let me pull it off here. It's basically a Yamamoto double tail grub, and then it's got this skirted material molded onto it as well. And you take a football head and you just combine them. Now, this shines for me as we head into the colder water. So not this end of fall, the other end of fall, right? When the fish really get finicky, I don't know why a hula grub is so effective, but there are days, especially in clear water, where it will outfish everything else. It really will. It's amazing. And this tiny hula grub that they came out with last year, when I saw it at ICAST, I was like, well, it's either going to be incredible or it's too small, and I don't know which. I got those things out on the water last winter. I went through so many packs of these things. We caught so many big smallmouth on this. It was amazing. It's an awesome little guy. Now, the rest of these are true jigs. I've got 3 more for you. We've got the Kitech football, tungsten football there. We got the little Missile Baits football. And then from Great Lakes Finesse, we've got their little ball head jig. Each one of these is unique. Of the 3, the Kitech has the heaviest wire hook.
I can go up to 10-pound line, no problem with that. I can even sneak to 12-pound if I'm throwing straight fluoro instead of braid to leader. But if I'm braid to leader, I stop at 10-pound, otherwise I'll bend it out. But a Kitech football paired up with a little trailer, and I'll get to the trailers here in a second. I've got 3 of them laid out here, is incredible when the fishing gets tough. The second one up is this little missile baits guy. Again, little football. It's actually got a little smaller skirt than the Kitech. Most importantly, it has an even smaller hook in it. I can throw this jig on 6 to 8 pound lines. 6, 7, 8 pound. And it's insane how many bites I get. The jig, I started this video by saying, 1, it's efficient, and 2, it catches monster bass. Even in the tiny profiles, they catch monster bass. I believe it has to do with the secondary action. We'll get to that in a second. Here's the third one. This is from Great Lakes Finesse. You'll notice, 1, it's a ball head, but 2, look how much bigger the skirt is. A very long, very flowing skirt. They designed this for clear water applications. Now, all 3 of these you can pair to just about any tiny little trailer. But the 3 trailers that I have the most confidence in, they're all a little bit different. From X-Zone in their Stealth Finesse series, we have the Stealth Craw, little 2.5-inch craw bait. It pairs up beautifully on these things. If I want a true craw profile, little crawdad down there on the bottom, that's my favorite one. Hands down, that's the one. And you'll notice, like, this color is black blue on one side. Oh, actually, that one is just straight black blue. There's another one that's black blue on one side, green pumpkin on the other. When I carry that one with me, if the water's murkier, I put it black blue side up. If the water's clearer, I put it green pumpkin side up. Again, we can adapt these jigs any which way we want. It's so easy. The second one from Great Lakes Finesse is their Snack Craw. Little tiny guy, 2.1 inch. Here's one all on that Great Lakes Finesse jig. That Snack Craw, he's got like a little fighting stance to him, but he's got a really subtle kick. Really subtle, but it's there. So if I'm pitching into deeper water and I want a little bit of a swim on the way down, that's the one. And then the last one from Z-Man, TRD Bugs. The TRD Bugs is like a tiny little downsized beaver profile. Such a cool little bait. Throughout my life, I've spent an incredible amount of time throwing a pitch and jig with a beaver style trailer on it. Just have so much confidence through the years. I mean, multiple double digits, multiple that I've caught on that, probably 7 or 8 that I've caught on just that setup through the years. It's incredible how well it works. This is a tiny little downsized version of that. Plus it's Z-Man, so it's a Laztec. It'll last all day long. So you can take a Bugs, put it on any of these jigs, and you've got that dead action. It's just profile, right? We're not looking for kick. We're not looking for anything. We're just looking for a look on the bottom and a fast fall. Those fish, on some days, they mow it down. I switch between a craw and a beaver style profile on any given day. Just see which one they want because it changes all the time. Now, with those little jigs, again, I'm picky about rods. From Cashin, this is their 610 medium light. So all around bait finesse rod. Now you can also throw this stuff on spinning, but in bait finesse, a 610 ML is going to give me enough backbone to slam the hook set, but it's also softer throughout, all through the mid. You can see the flex. That's going to help keep those fish loaded up throughout the fight. And then again, 6, 7, 8 pound line, and you're all set. Now, I started to say that I believe these catch big fish because of secondary action. What that is about, whether we're talking micro jigs or full-size jigs, doesn't matter. What a jig has that a lot of soft baits do not have, be that a creature bait or a worm, they're just a single profile coming along the bottom. A bass will come up to them. They'll track them. It's moving in front of them. They decide whether or not they want to eat it. They're looking at that primary motion that that bait has. A jig has secondary movement, and I believe that's part of why it catches so many giant bass. It also has a very large profile. That helps too. See, a jig in your hand is not that big, but this is not what a jig looks like on the bottom of the lake. A jig on the bottom of the lake puffs out in all directions. It's a puff ball with that trailer in there. So, as a result, it's actually larger on the bottom than what you realize. And then more importantly than that, you've got a trailer. So in this case, we've got that X-Zone muscleback craw laying on the bottom of the lake. Beautiful. If I'm swimming it fast, it's back there kicking, giving us great action. If I just kill it and it lands on the bottom, now you're looking at just a true craw profile on the bottom. The difference between this and your other soft plastics is that all the skirt material is laying around it. When a bass comes up to that jig, people fail to realize this. A bass, every time it moves water around it, right? It displaces water. A big bass will displace a lot of water. When a big bass charges up to a bait, there's literally a wall of water that will push over the bait. So many times, and we've seen this in our underwater footage, a giant fish will run up to a jig and stop. When they do that, the skirt all moves. And now the fish is looking at the jig, and to us, it's just laying there dead on the bottom. There's no action, but that's not reality. The reality is that they pull up on this thing, and their movement displaced water that hits the skirt, and now there's a perfect craw laying on the bottom in front of them with the tentacles waving in the water. Secondary movement, which is what imitates real life. And I believe that is a major part of why so many giant fish pull up on that jig, and then instead of going, oh, nope, and wandering away, they go, yes, boom, and they eat that thing. That is the difference maker, and that is why a jig needs to become a major part of your fishing. You may not catch the most fish on it, but when you cross paths with a giant, you have a very high chance of that fish saying yes. Guys, I love jig fishing. I'm passionate about it year-round. I have been for decades, but fall is one of my favorite times to throw it because of how efficient we can be picking isolated cover and catching those fish. It's so much fun. I hope this gives you the confidence to go out and try it. Again, in the video description, I'll link everything that we've talked about, from the baits to the trailers to the rods and reels. I'll give you our favorite colors right down the line so that when you do go out and try it, you've got in the back of your mind, you know exactly what Tim or I would be using in that situation, and you can fish with confidence. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.